Tonight, Charlotte on alert. Hurricane Florence heading our way.
Customers need to be prepared to be without power for weeks.
Flooding and strong winds could create a power outage nightmare.
From stocking up to preparing your home, what you need to do tonight to ride out the rest of the storm. This special edition of NBC Charlotte continues right now. This evening, the North Carolina coast already getting pounded by wind and rain. Here are live pictures from the Carolina coast. A lot of wind and rain out there. NBC Charlotte's Evan West joining us live from Wilmington, North Carolina. Evan, the city has had several days to prepare. Are they ready?
They say they are, Fred. We'll find out whenever we truly feel the actual hurricane here in a couple hours. Right now we have tropical storm force winds. We've had rain all day long. Whenever I brought you a report 30 minutes ago, it wasn't raining, but it's back now. And with this wind, it is absolutely just pelting us. So I'm going to step out of the way, grab the flashlight from Mike Hansen here and show you what this wind looks like here on the Cape Fear River. And I guess I should say the effect that it's having here. We've also got the cattail dancing. This river named the Cape Fear River, appropriately named because a lot of people are afraid what this area here on the Riverwalk in historic downtown Wilmington is going to look like whenever Hurricane Florence is done. This is the boardwalk right here. We're told by an officer that just walked by during Hurricane Matthew, this was under 2 feet of water. Matthew, of course, making landfall as a Category 1 storm. Hurricane Florence could make landfall as a Category 2. We'll find out what happens, but certainly things getting much, much worse here in Wilmington. For now, reporting live, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, Evan, if you can hear me, you know, we have a lot of people write in concerned about your safety, our reporters' safety. Talk about how you guys are in a safe location and what you're doing out there as you're reporting on this storm.
Well, we're extremely close to the building. It's 25 yards to my left right here. So we're extremely, we want to always be close to structure. Not only that, but there's a tree over there. We avoid all kind of limbs and things that could potentially snap. So we're in a rather open area right now. And this is just tropical storm force winds. So no benches, nothing's, blowing around. We've still got trash cans standing up. But once things get worse, of course, we have an actual spot where we will anchor our equipment, anchor ourselves to make sure that we bring you the news in a safe fashion.
All right, Evan, thank you, and stay safe out there. Well, Hurricane Florence is here. We can see that already tonight. The danger very real. More than 1 million people are evacuated from coastal areas and 10 million live within areas of hurricane warnings and watches. Thank you for watching this special edition of NBC Charlotte, everybody. I'm Sarah French.
And I'm Fred Shropshire. Tonight, time is running out for families in Charlotte to prepare for this storm. It's here, and soon we'll feel the impact in the Queen City. Here's some new video into our newsroom from the North Carolina coast. You can see the storm surge already causing flooding issues.
NBC News correspondent Wendy Woolfolk joining us live from Wilmington tonight. And Wendy, Florence expected to make landfall there very soon. How are the conditions where you are?
Fred, Sarah, they have definitely deteriorated throughout the afternoon. We are feeling those outer bands with the intermittent periods of rain as well as strong wind gusts. 60,000 people already without power in this region, and that's bound to increase as she makes landfall.
Florence making her presence known.
Your time to get out of those areas and storm surge inundation is coming to a close. I cannot emphasize that enough. Forecasters are basically indicating feet of rain, not inches.
Millions heeding the dire warning to outrun her ferocious arms, carrying powerful winds and potentially catastrophic rain.
We're not going to be able to come out and get you if you have an emergency while the storm is underway.
While others make the most of every moment to prepare.
There's nothing we can do here. When winds get above 3 digits, the only thing you can do inside your house is die.
With Hurricane Florence at the doorstep, officials sounding the final alarm.
If you have not left these evacuation zones, you should leave now because time is running out.
Wherever she makes landfall, Florence promises to make the record books.
And while that landfall is still uncertain, what we do know, the longer she lasts here and the slower she goes, the greater impact she'll have in this region. Live in Wilmington, North Carolina, I'm Wendy Woolfolk. Fred and Sarah, back to you.
Hey, Wendy, really quickly before we let you go, a question for you. I know that we talked about the millions of people who are evacuating, oftentimes in these storms, people who are used to living in these conditions and who have over years seen these conditions happen. They have a different mentality. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone who's deciding to ride this out?
Absolutely, we have quite a few of them. In fact, many of them were down on this riverfront today, Fred. They came out. The storm had been downgraded to a Cat 2. They decided they wanted to take one last look at the Cape Fear River behind us to see how she's faring before they decided to hunker down. They felt like the safest place for them to be was in their homes. They've done this before, and they're ready to ride her out.
Yeah, it's obviously not the best decision, but we know we see that kind of thing. Wendy Woolfolk reporting for us. Thank you for your report. A few hours ago, the National Hurricane Center gave us the latest Florence track. The storm expected to make landfall somewhere along the Carolina coast very soon. It's then going to move west, dumping rain along the way, including here in Charlotte.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich joining us from the First Warn Storm Center. Brad, this storm will be a big rainmaker here in Charlotte.
Yeah, we're really kind of breaking this storm up into two parts. You know, the first part is what's going to happen on the coast, the big storm surge, certainly big time wind and rain. For us, it's really going to be about the rain, but it's really going to be the slow movement that dictates how much rain we see. The storm is actually moving very slowly now. It looks like it's trying to drift back to the west. The radar is doing a much better job because we get a radar sweep every minute out there. So you can see the circulation. It does look like in the last couple of frames there that it looks like it's moving off to the west. The problem with the slow movement is these rain bands are just pummeling the coastal sections again and again. And if you think about the counterclockwise spin, all of that water is being pushed back into the mouth of the Neuse, the Tar River, the Cape Fear River, not bad yet, but as we get closer to landfall, that water is going to go into the Cape Fear River. Now remember, these bands are raining inland. That water wants to go back downriver because these rivers drain back into the ocean. But guess what they run into? They run into that surge going upriver. That creates a dam, basically, and the water just backs up and it floods upriver, and you get huge surges in these rivers, more so than you would actually imagine because of it being a river. It's the water coming downstream meeting up with that surge. So there's a wider view. You can see Charlotte right there. Some of the outer bands are up in the Raleigh area. We're not going to see much tonight, and really the first half of tomorrow, I think the only thing you'll notice is the breezy conditions. Look at the wave heights being picked up by the buoys out here, 15 to 25 to 30-foot waves just hammering the coast. So you've got storm surge. These waves are on top of the storm surge, which causes additional issues. Look at the wind gusts in the last hour. Most of these wind gusts are well above 50 miles an hour, a couple over 80 miles per hour, and the center is still offshore. Remember, the west side is actually the weaker side of the storm. Can you imagine what the winds are going to be like on the north and northeast side as they move inland? In Charlotte, we've got wind gusts now 25 to 30, and those will only go up during the overnight hours. So here was the latest advisory, still drifting west with winds of 100 miles per hour, probably going to make landfall sometime around sunrise in the morning. Then it drifts to the southwest through the weekend. So it's going to be to our south for about 2.5 days. During that 2.5 day period, we're going to see a ton of rain. Coming up, we're going to show you some of those rainfall totals and some of the records that could fall as Florence heads our way.
Brad, thank you. Morehead City in eastern North Carolina is getting pummeled right now. The wind already causing damage. The storm surge there could be as high as 7 feet.
Let's go there now to NBC's Gaddy Schwartz in Radio Island between Morehead City and Beaufort. Gaddy, this is getting really intense out there from what we can see in your pictures.
Yeah, we've seen these winds picking up over the last few hours. We've really been getting blasted by these winds since about 11 o'clock. They were about 50, 60 miles an hour, and then in the last few hours, we've seen them really ramp up. In fact, we've had to fall back. We were just over there a little while ago, but you can see from where we've got that light pointed, that is an area where I can't stand up. So you've got some sustained wind gusts out here that are enough to topple trees. We know that there have been some toppled trees and branches down in some of these surrounding areas. Beaufort is just across the bay. We've lost power here at the building where we're taking shelter. In fact, the reason why I'm not blowing around so much is this. It's hard to believe, but this is actually a shelter for us. This is kind of a windbreak. But over there, where we're supposed to see Bedford, we don't see Beaufort, any of the lights from that town. And then over there, where Morehead is, we're not seeing any lights over there either. So unclear at this point if they've lost power. But it does look like Radio Island has lost power.
and we're expecting that storm surge, and we're expecting the tide to rise. So around 11:30 is going to be the worst of it here. Guys, back to you.
Gotti, please stay safe out there. Thank you.
All right, we still have time to get prepared for the storm, but with the increasing flood threat, you need to get your emergency kit ready right now.
NBC Charlotte's Brooke Katz here with a few items that should definitely be on your list. Brooke?
Yeah, and having that emergency kit is so key right now, getting those items locked up, getting them together right now. So what sorts of things should you have in your kit? You definitely want a first aid kit, blankets for all of the people that are in your family, water, non-perishable food, and don't forget a can opener, as well as a battery-operated radio or a crank radio, flashlight, and then if you have pets, you definitely need that pet food. A few other things to keep in mind as well. Prescription medications, you need to keep those on hand, as well as important documents. Things like your driver's license, social security card, banking information. And it never hurts just to have an extra set of car and house keys just in case. And then finally, one thing you can do now before the storm hits, you can download the NBC Charlotte mobile app. That way, if your power goes out, you can watch our coverage of the storm. We'll have all of the information for you. We even have an entire section dedicated to Hurricane Florence. But these are things that you really need to do now, especially if you have to get out to the stores and buy some things. You've got to do those pretty immediately. Fred and Sarah?
All right, good advice. Thank you, Brooke. Still to come, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich will have more on Charlotte's impact from Hurricane Florence right after the break. Welcome back to our special edition of NBC Charlotte. We keep getting new video showing flooding and storm surge from Hurricane Florence. This is new video, new feed coming in from Swansboro, North Carolina. The water already high at flood stage. This is in Onslow County. It's one of many places on the coast dealing with flooding tonight. Brad, that's my hometown.
Yeah.
There, my parents had to evacuate. They're in Greensboro now. Yeah, I had to talk them into that too.
What's kind of crazy is that's way ahead of the storm. I mean, the worst is probably going to be tonight and tomorrow. That was today's high tide. The high tide tomorrow morning could be maybe double some of these water levels. So as bad as that looks today, I think it could get a lot worse overnight into early tomorrow morning, because you can see the storm is still offshore, and basically what the storm is doing right now, it's sitting there spinning like this, pushing water towards the coast, but the water can't come back down, so the low tide will not go out tonight. It's just going to stay in a lot of these bays and inlets and the intercoastal, and so as the high tide comes in tomorrow, it gets pushed again, so it's going to rise even higher. So you're going to look at some incredible levels of water rise here along the coast. Now, the radar is nice. We're getting radar images every minute, which is a little better than our satellite images, even though as great as they are. So